Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, September 4th, 2025. Lando and I did another wheel spin this week, so we're going to be talking about a lot of movies. In fact, I've realized I don't have enough fives in this week to be able to cover everything that I have watched and that Lando and I have watched, but that's a nice problem to have. In any event, we have a random wheel spinner. I think we've mentioned this, but in case we haven't by now, I guess I should say, we have a wheel with random movies, and that's what we pick from. And funny enough, I had just been talking with somebody in Discord about Witch From Nepal, a 1986 Chow Yun-Fat vehicle. And sure enough, what do you think comes up on the wheel? By magic, it's Witch From Nepal, which is honestly, it's very funny how similar this movie is to The Boxer's Omen, another movie that Lando and I watched, I don't know how many weeks ago now, or maybe it wasn't even weeks. We watched so many movies at this point, which is such a weird turnaround for us that I can't even tell when we watched what. But in any event, this is in many ways similar to Witch From Nepal, but it feels like the Disney-fied version of that movie. And that is probably its biggest problem. As a film, it's Chow Yun-Fat plays an illustrator named Joe, so of course I immediately liked him as a character in the beginning, who is apparently the next great leader of a mystical cult whose leader has just died, and so a witch from Nepal, hence the title, comes to Hong Kong to find Joe and unlock his mystical power. That's not really a spoiler. All this happens within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. And that's the basic premise of the movie. And of course, there is an evil black magic witch who is also coming, although I guess it'd be a warlock since it's a male. And that's the premise of the movie. That's it. And so that sounds very fun on paper. In fact, the movie is perfectly enjoyable, but next to The Boxer's Omen, it just felt like it was waiting for something. It definitely felt like the inferior version of the two types of film. Very similar. I don't know how many people will remember this, may not be old enough, but there were two movies about asteroids hitting Earth that came out about the same time. One was titled Armageddon. The other was titled Deep Impact. Now, you may like one of those movies better than the other, but it's unlikely that you like both equally well. They were very different films in what they were doing. And so you could watch one, then watch the other and think, well, this was trying to do something similar, but it didn't quite work as well. That's Witch From Nepal. Witch From Nepal is perfectly fine. It has some fun moments. I don't think anybody is particularly bad in it. There are some wonderful special effects, particularly towards the end. There's a great scene where there's a big fight. The only big fight in the movie, which is one of its small problems, whereas The Boxer's Omen had just lunatic things happening all the time. And to some degree, it's not really fair to compare the two movies. They had different sensibilities. They were made entirely differently for different audiences. And yet, because their plot lines are so similar, you can't really not compare them. The thing that Boxer's Omen didn't have, that this movie does have, is Chow Yun-Fat, who is just endlessly handsome and charismatic. And every time he smiles, you want to forgive all of his sins, which is a good thing because his character in this movie has some really creepy and scummy morality at times, which really bothered me, I have to admit. It may not bother others as much. It didn't bother Lando as much as his reaction to Coffin Joe, that's for sure. Wow, two movies with Joe in the title. I didn't even pick that up until just this second. We'll get into that. But it did bother me because I felt like they were trying to make the character, I don't know, they were trying to let the character get away with a lot of things I don't think the character should have been allowed to get away with, if that makes sense. I'm trying to keep this spoiler-free in case you want to watch it. We will get into the details on Friday, but that was one of my big problems with this movie, and this is something Lando also echoed when we were talking about it after, the movie felt like it just was waiting to get going, and it only really got going at the very end. It felt like a lot of setup for very little payoff. And again, some of that, we may not have had this same opinion had we not watched The Boxer's Omen. I really can't tell you that we wouldn't have liked this more had we not seen that other film. But we live in a reality where we did see the other film, we saw it first, and so I think that does reflect poorly on this. But even without that, the morality of Chow Yun-Fat's character would still have bothered me, I have to admit. So, look, Witch From Nepal, it's a perfectly fun watch. You can watch it. I'm not saying don't watch it. It's not a bad movie. But if you want to watch the super-powered version of this, go find The Boxer's Omen. So, fun movie, just not quite living up to what we've seen before. Later.